appreciate everyone being on today. I know it's investment in your day to come learn about Epicor and SourceDay and all the amazing technology that surrounds Epicor. So thank you for having us. Coda Bear is great being partners with y'all for a long time and being within the Epicor ecosystem. So really excited to present to y'all about how SourceDay is able to mitigate inbound supply chain risk and really excited to dive into the content. So we'll go ahead and get started here. So first, from an agenda standpoint, we'll do some quick introductions. I'll be doing a quick SourceDay overview, and then we'll dive into SourceDay intelligence. And then we'll get into how does SourceDay leverage AI and machine learning to de-risk your supply chain. Have plenty of time for Q&A. So who are we? I'm Colby Young. I'm VP of Alliances. I've been with SourceDay for 8 years now, and I've worked in the Epicor space pretty much the entire time. Really worked closely with Coda Bears for many, many years. And just a little bit of background on our company in general. We're a 10-year-old software company. We have had Epicor clients, I think, since about year 9 or year 8. So been in the space a long time. We have a big Epicor ecosystem and the partners like Coda Bears that help you all make sure Epicor is running smoothly. So that's me. I'll pass it to Coleman to say hello and a little background on himself.
Thanks, Colby. It's nice to meet everyone. My name is Coleman Newell. I have been with SourceSafe for about a year, and I lead our data science and analytics. So building out anything that is predictive, machine learning, or AI, but also our kind of analytics and reporting products. Anything we can use to deliver some insight from our data. As mentioned, I've been with SourceSafe for about a year, but for about 7 years before that, I've worked in supply chain technology companies in some data science capacity.
He's our thought leader for today. Really excited to have Coleman on and really get into the fun part of AI and machine learning here. All right, so let's get started. So what is the problem that SourceDay is built to address, and the problem that we've been solving for 10 years for our Epicor customers is that when it comes to a manufacturer, folks that have proper supply chains to run their business, inside of Epicor, amazing ERP, right? Inside the four walls of your organization, you have all the data you need to run your business, run your day to day, know what you need to do. Every operational division from sales and finance to manufacturing and inventory and procurement, they have what they need to be effective. However, suppliers, they're kind of left out in the cold. They don't have a room in the Epicor house. They don't even have a window into Epicor. And we believe here at SourceDay, for a manufacturer, suppliers and all that inbound inventory coming from your suppliers is one of the most important parts, if not the most important part to your entire supply chain. It doesn't matter how good your sales are. If you don't have the inventory from your suppliers when you need it, at the quantity you need, your production lines go down, you don't hit customer orders. It's kind of crazy. We believe that we're in 2024, halfway through this year, and the tools that your procurement team has to manage your supplier network is, I'll call them sticks and stones, emails, spreadsheets, and phone calls. We're in a age of digital transformation and automation, and this gap is not solved. And to throw some more fuel on this fire here is not only is there this massive gap that I just talked about, but purchase orders are constantly changing. We run about 10 million purchase orders through SourceDay every single year, and the data tells us that over half of every purchase order needs to be adjusted. So, if Calvin's my supplier, I send him a purchase order, he needs to adjust date, quantity, or price, or I need to pull some quantity in, or Epicor is telling me a PO change suggestion, right, to push a date out, right? Those are the types of changes we're talking about. And the longer the lead time, the more changes are going to happen. Unbelievably difficult to manage with all these disparate communication tools. They don't speak to one another. They don't speak to Epicor. Suppliers are trying to manage all these different communication tools. In the age of digital transformation, this is not the way to do it. Also, some statistics I'll share with you is that a third of parts are going to be late. That's what we are seeing through all the data of SourceDay. But you don't know which third are going to be late. You might have a 30-year parts late on certain SKUs this week, and next week, completely different SKUs. So you're trying to figure out where the problems are, what safety stock to buffer. The worst thing in the world is production lines going out that's going to impact your customer orders. Also, there's a big data problem when it comes not just to invoice matching, but also to MRP. But we are seeing that about 40% of invoices don't match your PO and don't match your receipt transactions. Now you have to stop and you have to fix the data. You've got to get with the supplier, get with the buyer, finance gets involved. You can't pay your suppliers until you have three-way match. And if you have this data problem that makes the purchase orders not match the invoice and receipt, you can't pay your suppliers on time. Maybe you can't take advantage of early payment discounting. And that data problem has a trickle effect across the whole organization. MRP is only as good as the purchase order line data. Inventory forecasting is only as good as what do I have on all my open purchase orders. And when you have a bunch of purchase orders and all this change and old school communication tools, your data is just not going to be right in Epicor because buyers are running around with their hair on fire all day long as it is. And now they got to somehow get all these changes back into Epicor at the line level, and it's just impossible. So what does SourceDay do? SourceDay bilaterally integrates with Epicor. And the way our integration works is we're reading Epicor every 15 minutes for new purchase orders that have been created or any changes that have been made to existing purchase orders. And we also read MRP for any PO change suggestions. So I want to be very clear on our integration is we do not change the way you use Epicor at all. Your purchase orders need to be created in Epicor. Utilize MRP. It's an amazing tool. We pick up where Epicor stops when it comes to communicating with your suppliers and being aligned with them. So no competitive overlap with Epicor, not changing the way you use it. So like I said, every 15 minutes, pulling that data into SourceDay, digitizing it, and then the magic starts. So we provide automation to ensure there's 100% PO delivery, visibility, and engagement on every single one of your direct spend purchase orders with all of your suppliers. And we provide different engagement models so that suppliers can communicate with you however they want. If they're only going to ever use an email, great. We got you covered with email. We have a robust portal for a long time. We also have the EDI that I'll talk about a little bit. So it doesn't matter how your suppliers want to interact on your orders. We've got them covered. But for you, it's just SourceDay. And then we are updating Epicor at the line level when you approve changes. So I want to be very clear about that. We don't just update Epicor, right? We give you the check and balance and responsibility of deciding what do I want in my system. And that's making sure that you have good data integrity inside of Epicor that's driving the rest of your business. So the results are pretty profound here. This is, again, amazing statistic, 25% improvement on time and full in the very first year. Again, what would that mean to your business? What expenses could you eliminate if you saw a 25% OTIF improvement in year one? We're seeing about a 50 to 80% increase in productivity for purchasing. Again, purchasing is one of the most overworked teams within a manufacturing company. And a part of it is because they are just using email spreadsheets and phone calls, crazy pivot tables out of Epicor and spreadsheets. It's just, again, there's better technology to do this to allow buyers to focus on more profit-driven activity. Negotiate better pricing with your suppliers. Go find new suppliers so you're not single source with specific ones. Again, allow them to be able to scale with the business with the appropriate technology. And then first pass match rates. What if 90% of all your PO-backed invoices matched with your purchase order and your receipt the very first time? Could you negotiate early payment discounting with your suppliers? Will you have better supplier relationships? These are all real results with our customers. So a quick look at kind of how this works, right? I mentioned the three different ways in which suppliers can engage. So this is kind of new. Some of y'all out there might know about SourceDay. Again, we've been in the Epicor space a long time. We've worked with CodaBears a long time. We used to just be this middle part, which, call it a supplier portal. However, not all suppliers are going to use a supplier portal, and we fully realize that. So we've spent the last 2 years innovating on our product to provide more engagement models for suppliers to make sure that we can provide engagement for all of your suppliers. Depending on what type they are, how technology advanced they are, it doesn't matter. We still have our amazing portal. We have about 20,000 suppliers that use it every single day. High enough volume supplier, technology advanced, great. They're going to love it. They're going to use it every day. They're going to be super users. You have a long tail network of suppliers that are never going to use a portal. So we have an email based workflow that allows them to interact directly in an email. They don't, they're not logging into a portal. They don't really even know they're utilizing SourceDay. It's like an interactive purchase order. They can provide you acknowledgments, updates. They're often running straight from an email, but it flows into SourceDay. So whether you're getting an update from the portal or an email, it's one view for all your orders. And then we even have EDI as well. So we have an EDI partner that allows us to integrate directly into any supplier's EDI system to provide them EDI capabilities. But for our customers, it's just SourceDay. They don't have to manage EDI integrations into Epicor. It's just our standard API integration, and we're able to provide that EDI connectivity to suppliers. So just kind of a high level snapshot. Point being, suppliers have options, and we've got them all covered. So what are some of the benefits here? I've talked about some already, and I have one side here with some actual quotes from Epicor users. But from an operations standpoint, think on-time delivery. Operations are responsible for product in the door, product out the door, and SourceDay is able to boost on-time delivery. And Coleman's actually going to talk a lot about how we do that by mitigating risk of late deliveries by utilizing AI and machine learning. Supply chain. Purchasing typically rolls up to supply chain. So again, what if we're able to boost productivity by at least 50%? What if we're able to arm your purchasing team with some of the amazing things Coleman's about to talk about to de-risk the supply chain to navigate purchase order delays? Finance. Everything kind of rolls up to finance these days. What if we're able to decrease inventory on hand? What if we're able to help you hold less inventory, reduce your warehouse space? You have better on-time delivery. You have 100% accurate purchase order line data in your ERP. Now you trust MRP. You have more on-time delivery, decrease buffer stock, hold less inventory, and we have real results. Here is a real Epicor client. They're called Bronability. They were able to reduce on-hand inventory by 22%. And they're actually looking at no longer storing production components at an offsite warehouse. Think about the savings for your organization, even if this was a 10% reduction, a 5% reduction, right? We're talking about real dollar savings. Um, risk, right? The world is very focused on risk, and Coleman's going to talk a lot about how we're using AI and machine learning to de-risk the supply chain. It's the title of our session today, but that was a key driver for Prairie Machine needing SourceDay. Prairie Machine is seeing a 99% of their direct spend PO lines being managed in SourceDay. 99%. Almost every single one of their purchase orders is digitized with the automation inside of SourceDay with their suppliers directly tied to Epicor. And Bronability is seeing a 35% increase in on-time delivery, right? That increase in on-time delivery is giving them the confidence to reduce safety stock, right? We saw this. So I've been with SourceDay for 8 years, kind of pre-COVID. People were buying as much inventory as they could, right? It was hold as much inventory. Who knows when you're going to get it from your suppliers? Buy more warehouse space. Just hold inventory because we can't have production downtime. Well, that's not the way of the world anymore. We're not necessarily going back to just in time, but absolutely CFOs need to reduce their inventory holding costs, and SourceDay can do that for you.
Colby,
All right.
we've got one
Yep,
question.
please.
Have you worked with multi-company customers with Epicor? How is that interface set up?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have multi companies with inside of Epicor, SourceDay can set up, within SourceDay we call them sites, but companies, you have multiple sites in a drop down, so you can see all of it in one view. You could look at one company at a time. If you have buyers that just work with specific companies, right, we can lock them down to just see that site or company. But yes, absolutely we do. And I am just so please let me know if there are more questions. In the view I'm looking at right now, I can't see them. So please interrupt me as I'm presenting if there are more questions. All right. So we're going to get into really the meat and potatoes of our agenda here. I wanted to give you all a quick SourceDay overview because there might be a lot of new folks and explain some of the new capabilities specifically around supplier engagement. But today is mostly about SourceDay intelligence and how we're using AI and machine learning to truly de-risk your entire supply chain. And what I want to talk about is this proprietary data set that SourceDay has that is truly the largest direct spend focused proprietary data set of its kind in the world. So all we have been doing for 10 years is focused on buyer supplier collaboration for manufacturers with suppliers all over the world managing what we call purchase order lifecycle. And within that, we have 80,000 suppliers utilizing SourceDay, and that's across the globe. We have 100 million purchase order updates per year that we are writing back and forth within ERPs. Those are dates, quantity, price, splitting of lines and quantities, right? And we have the root cause of these updates. We have the information behind these updates. We have where in the world these are happening from, right? So amazing amount of data behind 100 million purchase order updates every single year. $40 billion of direct spend is being managed inside of SourceDay. So we have the analytics behind these dollar amounts, what changes are impacting dollar amounts, how that's impacting the organization. And then this is unbelievably unique. We have 75 million in platform messages happening. Or the email messages, right? If they're just working within the email from the supplier, but 75 million messages happening in the platform. And with Coleman and his team, we're now able to utilize AI and machine learning to understand those messages and give you better intelligence behind them. So I do want to bring Coleman into the conversation now to get more intelligent on this, but we're very excited to be able to take this and apply it to the supply chain. And I'm sure many of y'all are familiar with ChatGPT and AI machine learning as kind of buzzwords all over the place. This is a little different, right? This isn't just ChatGPT out there like writing, specific content for you. This is able to take a specific proprietary data set and use amazing AI and machine learning to give you predictions, to give you risk mitigation, to tell you where you should be focused on your time and actions to take based on this amazing data set that fortunately we have access to for being a successful company in this niche of the supply chain for a decade. So Coleman, I'll ask you to kind of take over and also if we can flip presenter over to Coleman so he can navigate the slides, that'd be great.
All right, a couple of quick things I want to highlight on what Colby just talked about. There's two kind of takeaways from our data set that I think make it unique. One is we've got a large scale, so that there's a lot of suppliers, a lot of purchase orders, a lot of activity, a lot of spend in our data set. That means we can do pretty deep pattern matching. And secondly, it's not just doesn't just contain the outcomes of purchase orders, what the final state was, but all of the activity that the buyers and suppliers collaborated on to get there. So you have a much better understanding of what it takes to get to a good outcome or a bad outcome on a purchase order because we have all the stages and steps and activities and messages that went into that purchase order before it was completed. And then the other thing I want to highlight here is that this, we use this data set to kind of ground our what we call SourceData Intelligence, which is our practical AI platform, so that it's meant to be kind of inherently useful. We're not trying to AI wash. We're not going to put a chat bot on the application. We want to make sure that any SourceData Intelligence, any AI and machine learning applications are grounded in our customers' data sets, are kind of brought through this lens of domain expertise so that they're inherently useful to customers. And ultimately, that's what allows us to deliver this risk mitigation framework, which is what we'll talk about today. So why focus on risk management? Typically a lot of purchase order collaboration is kind of focused on the PO lifecycle. You can see your pending orders, your planned orders, your open orders, and your completed and late orders. We want to shift that focus a little bit to risk management for a few reasons. First, we want to focus on why that matters. Colby touched on a lot of these in ways that our customers are seeing value because they're able to manage their risks in their supply chain better. But this matters for some pretty important outcomes for the company. Are you able to protect revenue and sales orders? Are you able to reduce your carrying costs, avoid production stoppages, avoid customer delivery delays, and reduce your buffer stock so that your operating costs are lower, your revenue is higher? And then we know that there are a lot of things that drive those factors, but we know that there's one kind of overarching factor, which is on-time delivery. If you're getting your orders on time in full, for the agreed upon price, you're able to improve all of those outcomes. And we have a good understanding of, was something delivered on time? Was it delivered in full? Was it delivered for the agreed upon price? And then most importantly, what we touched on with the strength of the data set is that we have also a good understanding of what good looks like, what drives those improvements in on-time delivery. And then really importantly, what bad looks like, what's going to make it, your purchase orders or your supply chain more at risk because they're following bad practices, bad workflows to get to that lower on-time delivery. One example of this is we know that when a purchase order is acknowledged in the SourceData platform, it's about 24% more likely to be delivered on time, because then you get a lot of the benefits of the collaboration workflows that are automatic. That's one high-level example. We have good data on what all of the different stages and workflows that drive better on-time delivery are, which is why we want to refocus our customers' workflows less from handle every purchase order in every stage of the life cycle to focus more on what is driving the most risk in your supply chain so that you can have a better outcome for those areas. And this is a big problem that our customers raise a lot, is that PO collaboration it's very manual, it's very reactive, and there are a lot of blind spots and risks for your business. You often don't know that an order is going to be delayed or late or have a mismatched price until after that occurs, after you've received the goods, or after the due date has already passed and you're left without the inventory you need. So as a result, buyers are often left kind of spending time on repetitive, low impact workflow lifecycle management tasks rather than focusing on more strategic, high risk challenges. And we can quantify this. We can see this in our data that the majority of purchase orders do require manual intervention for just a couple of reasons. We can see that just at the very highest level. So just measuring, did a supplier try and change a purchase order, and was it ultimately delivered late? Just from those two potential causes of interventions, that's more than half of purchase orders fall under those categories. So once we add in all of the less common and longer tail risks that can show up on a purchase order, it becomes really, really burdensome for buyers to work through all of these potential risks, potential challenges on a purchase order. So just really high volume task, a lot of manual intervention required. So that's why we wanted to build out risk management. I want to show you some more examples from our product. So kind of more show, less tell. We'll walk through what our product does in its risk management framework, and I'll show you a few examples, and then we'll come back and kind of touch on what those allow you to do. So first, what we're looking at here is mentioned earlier that typically purchase order collaboration is more PO lifecycle management. So you can see here that you can find all your purchase orders by lifecycle stage. But what we really want to reorient users to is show me the purchase orders that are actually at risk. Show me the red, let the green purchase orders, continue to flow through so I can really focus where I'm going to have the most impact. So we have a risks view in SourceData's platform. allows you to see all of the outstanding risks to your current orders. Now, there's a lot of different drivers of that risk. We mentioned there's a lot of different, workflows and potential challenges that show up on a purchase order. So you can see all of them at once, or you can start filtering down with some, smart filters to see a more targeted version of a problem. Let's say, for example, I want to look at just date and quantity proposed changes from my supplier, if there's a move in or move out, or if they're only able to deliver a shorter amount of quantity. I want to see that. And then maybe I want to filter that down to, one of my critical suppliers, and for orders that are due in the next week. So this is like a really high priority project for me, a really high priority supplier. I want to make sure that there's no last second changes to orders that are due very soon. So I apply these filters and I can filter that list down to from a really unmanageable high level of purchase orders and risks to much more targeted view where we see a smaller set of risks for this really high impact problem. One of my critical suppliers proposed due date changes in the next week. And then let's say I want to revisit this problem pretty often. I can go and save this view as a custom save view. I can name it, hey, it's my critical supplier, date changes in the next week. So that I can come back and revisit this, weekly, monthly, so that I know, have a good sense of what are the high impact problems that I want to revisit, how often are they occurring. I don't have to go find them every time. They're right there when I log in, shown to me. And then so now you can see there is a saved view for this specific type of problem. It moves the universe of risks from very high, large, unmanageable amount to much more manageable amount for you to focus on in the near term. So we've seen so far, it's easier to find and detect and filter down to risks. We also want to help resolve them. So from this same view, you can click into and see a kind of a hover state for a proposed change risk. And you can see some details, some helpful context around what has changed, a recommendation on how to resolve it, and then even the ability to go in and accept or propose a change to resolve that risk right there from the risk dashboard. So you're able to see all of your the risks you want to resolve, what your workflow is, and then resolve them in place without having to go to a separate portal, to a separate screen. So we've seen, some of the more typical standard risks, like, a supplier wants to change a purchase order. We also, our problem statement earlier said that most risk management is reactive. So we also want to provide ways to make that more proactive. That's where the power of our, our data set and source data intelligence comes in. So one of the risks that we surface on purchase orders is called lead type risk. This is a predictive risk where instead of flagging a delayed order after it's already delayed, as soon as a purchase order is cut, we're able to evaluate, is this lead time likely to be met, or is it likely to be delivered late? So at the very beginning of a purchase order lifecycle, we can detect that this is a high risk lead time. We think it's actually, there's maybe a different predicted delivery range. You can see here, maybe this was due March 1st. We think it's actually more likely to be delivered March 5th through March 14th. So you can detect that upfront, have more time to resolve it. And then, of course, we want to provide a recommendation and a resolution to that too. So you can message your supplier. We can generate a message for you that has all that same relevant context. This is what we think the expected delivery date is. Please, either update the due date or confirm that this delivery date is feasible. And then one more type of risk I want to highlight here is one of the more common problems is that we actually have vendor contacts that are just out of date and your PO is never delivered in the first place. That's one of the first drivers of bad outcomes, is just failures on PO delivery. So we want to be able to surface to you anytime that PO is not successfully delivered to your suppliers. That means we created a new type of risk called email issue risk. So this, if your supplier connects to SourceDate through email and there's any problem with their contact, maybe your contact at a supplier has moved on from the company, is not available. We want to flag that immediately so you're able to know that this purchase order has not been received and resolve it. To do that, you can go into the supplier and manage the users. You might know that this is the email that we are flagging as not deliverable. You can go and contact that supplier and find a better contact. And then you also want to know, did this impact my performance with the supplier at all? So, you can see the purchase order line level risks. You also might want to see, are there any systemic risks associated with the supplier? So we want to provide more context into supplier performance management and scorecarding so that you can see the macro level risks alongside those micro and purchase order level risks. So here you can see we go a little bit beyond traditional scorecarding where you're able to see scores and grades for suppliers across common dimensions. We certainly want to show that as well: on-time percentage, responsiveness, price variance, quality, but with a couple of added layers. One is making this configurable to your needs. So you can define on-time threshold. You can view this by a committed date versus a required date. So, is this supplier meeting the date that they've committed to? Are they meeting the original due date that is required by us? And then you can provide more context into that too. So, hey, we know on-time delivery for this supplier is 75%. How does that compare to the rest of my suppliers, to relevant industry benchmarks? For those 25% that are late, how late are they? Are they significantly late, just barely missing the cutoff? We can provide a little bit more context into those supplier scorecards to help you kind of fine tune the way you want to address those systemic risks. So I know that was a lot of quick view of the platform. I wanted to touch back quickly on SourceData Intelligence. We mentioned that at the start, but SourceData Intelligence is our practical AI platform. Again, it's built on this kind of differentiated data set you see here on the right. And it's really designed to make the user's decision-making, buyer's decision-making more efficient, more intuitive, more useful. That means it's kind of threaded into the workflows that they're already doing, but allowing you to do that with a little bit more insight into what's happening, what might happen next, and what the best resolution path is. This shows up in a few different ways. So you've seen today some predictive risks. Can we predict when there is a purchase order at risk due to an unlikely lead time? Some recommendations when there's a risk or a problem. What's the path that is most likely to resolve this and make purchase orders be on time, delivered on time in the future? And then automation. The flip side of focus on the high impact critical risks is that the rest of them that are lower impact, maybe less critical path, you want to spend less time on. Can we automate those responses, those acceptances for you, so that you don't have to do those manual interventions that are so common and so necessary today? So then one last kind of review of the different features where you would see this: lead time risk, identifying purchase orders likely to be late due to unrealistic lead times, much further upstream as soon as the purchase order is cut, and then recommending solutions like resolving the due date with suppliers via smart messaging templates. One we didn't cover today is missing acknowledgement risk. So, when a PO is delivered to a customer, that's a very critical driver of getting that successfully delivered, critical driver of on-time delivery. Getting that successfully acknowledged by the vendor, also a critical driver of on-time delivery. When we notice that, hey, this vendor hasn't acknowledged this purchase order, but they usually do it within this time frame, you might want to follow up with them to make sure it hasn't slipped through the cracks. That helps kind of catch a lot of potential purchase order problems upstream right as they're occurring, rather than downstream when you have a late purchase order and you contact the supplier and they're not even aware that it existed. A proposed change risk is just a really high volume problem. Changes happen a lot on purchase orders. So being able to kind of sort and filter and manage through your proposed changes helps to kind of focus on more strategic, high impact risks. And then lastly, the email issue risk. If you're not able to deliver those purchase orders, you don't have kind of that first step of getting your goods on time. And that's one of the most common blind spots today, is if an email is outdated, not being monitored. Maybe it has even a soft bounce where you might have an out of office reply for the next 2 weeks. Being able to understand that this hasn't been successfully delivered because of that reason is one of the key kind of preventers of downstream supply chain problems. All right, so that's our content for today. If there are any questions, would love to stick around and answer.
Thank you much, gentlemen, for coming on and doing this. We do appreciate it. So any other new features on the horizons that you can talk about, or anything coming up?
Well, mostly around, everything Coleman went over, right? Continuing to enable more predictive analytics, more predictive actions proactively with AI and machine learning. That's kind of the big focus of the roadmap right now. So everything you saw is being released currently into the platform. And then, like everything, right, we're going to continue to make it better and expand upon it. So that's the main focus. And then just, for Epicor users, want to just make sure all of y'all know we do have the direct integration with MRP. So being able to take the PO change suggestions and give you a systematic way to get that over to suppliers, confirmed upon, and then back into Epicor. critical piece of making sure MRP is successful, right? You can't really trust MRP if the data is not right on all your orders, and you why use the PO change suggestions if you can't get them communicated over to suppliers and confirmed back? So that's all automation that Sourced is able to provide for Epicor specifically.
I know you guys have worked real hard on this, make it a good system for everybody and fewer headaches for them all.
We appreciate y'all having us on in partnership with Coda Bears. And if you have any questions, my contact information is here. If you want to learn more, again, we're happy to chat with you about, how your data set fits into what Coleman and his team is doing, how you line up with the majority of our clients. We have a lot of Epicor customers, case studies, so we can kind of, right, see what is your profile of a supply chain look like compared to where our customers are finding success.
No,
Colby,
we prefer to do it the hard way. This is how we've always done it. We can't change.
I don't know if Calvin, if that was a question about, we do things, we've always done it this way, but I'll just kind of answer that around, we provide a managed service that helps through change management. Implementing anything new is a change, and we have an entire team of customer success and supplier success that takes you and your suppliers on a journey of a partnership in that change. So this isn't just dumped on you as an organization. Our integration is very lightweight and easy from an IT perspective. And then you have a customer success manager and a team dedicated to the onboarding and support of you and your supplier network through what is, of course, change. And everyone has different change tolerances. So we're a partner in that with you.
does SourceDay actually have a view into the supplier's production plan and the projected available dates of POs, or do they rely on the supplier to tell them when there are any date changes needed? For example, if a production planner for a supplier moves out some of the dates on their jobs due to unplanned maintenance, would SourceDay read that date change on the job, translate that into how it would impact our company, or does SourceDay rely on the production planner to actually send a trigger to SourceDay to inform them of the delay?
Great question. So a few ways we get that is we do not standardly integrate to all of your suppliers' ERP systems. So we do rely upon the supplier users, right? Your customer service rep, planner, whomever at the supplier side to utilize SourceDay to provide those triggers to you. And they can utilize our platform that has lots of different ways they can do it, from mass bulk updates, could update 100 lines all at once, to a file import of production changes that day, that week, whatever, straight into SourceDay via an import, and all that maps over. They can do it within the email as well. And then we do have the EDI connectivity. So if a supplier has EDI and they want a direct connection into their EDI calls, we can absolutely do that, which would trigger automated changes back as PO adjustments to you via EDI calls. But again, it comes just back into SourceDay. So we have different engagement models and different ways in which we can pick up those triggers. But the majority of our suppliers are going to have 20,000 of them that use the portal. And that's how they're engaging via an import or the UI that is way easier than emails and spreadsheets, or just directly in emails when they have that information to send back to you.
All right, we got that question answered. And from Tammy, with the multi-company client, have you helped with the intercompany PO process with any of them?
So like an intercompany transfer order, if you have one company buying from another company, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I
that's the
believe that's
question.
what she's talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I get the answer to that question is a little bit of depends. We need to understand exactly how you're doing it. The reality is we pick up any purchase order. So as long as it's, a standard purchase order we can grab, then you absolutely can have, inner companies communicating on an order. But I would suggest we connect a little bit deeper on that question to understand how you're doing intercompany transfer orders today, if it's just inventory movement or if you're actually buying. So again, we can help diagnose that. But yes, we have folks utilizing SourceDay for intercompany purchasing.
Do you have a veto that you send out to go get POs delivered on time?
We can work with you on that, Calvin. We can do that. No, but the reality is, like I mentioned with Brawn Ability, and we have case study after case study of how our clients are seeing an improvement on time delivery. And a big piece of it, right, is measuring on time delivery the right way. So not just looking at, hey, the latest date is today and it was delivered today, so it's on time. Well, no, they acknowledged the date 3 weeks ago. And just because they're updating it, throughout the life cycle is great. You need that. MRP is relying upon that, but we're going to hold them accountable to what they acknowledged. And so being able to have productive conversations with your suppliers that are data driven behind the analytics of their performance is one way and one reason suppliers are performing better, and all the amazing work Coleman's put into the product around identifying the risk ahead of time to be able to try to make adjustments. And if you look at on time delivery, obviously if something gets stuck at customs, no one can fix that. If there's a trucking shortage at the port and your stuff is sitting out on a boat for a week, no software is going to fix that. But where we can help fix things is before anything ships, to make sure the right amount is shipping and at the right time and with the right information. And that gives everybody a fighting chance to get it to you on time. So that's where our focus is making sure everything's aligned before it ever ships, and then you know exactly what did ship.
And then you had mentioned something about EDI ability.
Mhm.
Did you want to touch into that any further?
Yeah, I can speak towards that. So we have a partnership with SPS Commerce. You might be familiar, they're one of the largest EDI providers in the world. And we have worked with them on a proprietary EDI van that translates SourceDay's digital orders that we're pulling from your system into traditional EDI documents for your supplier. So there's nothing you need to do, right? We're already integrated to your system. We're pulling your orders, right? It's taking those EDI suppliers' orders, translating them into the EDI calls for your supplier, picking up those EDI documents, translating them back into SourceDay. And what's really nice about it is, you traditionally think about EDI, big IT lift, tons of integrations to support big IT project. We specifically designed this to not to be that. And we are, again, just SourceDay into your Epicor instance. And we are doing the testing and mapping of the EDI documents with your supplier, us and SPS. And it doesn't matter what EDI system your suppliers have, we can test and map that in. So what we're able to do with our customers is really roll out an actual EDI strategy. If it's just 1, 2, or 3 suppliers, that makes sense. Great. We can get them connected in. But then we can look at, hey, over time, maybe it makes sense that more get on. And maybe it makes sense to have a conversation with those suppliers about why they should invest in it, if that makes sense. But happy to talk to y'all more about an EDI strategy and how we're doing that with our customers today.
All right, then we'll take a break here for lunch. We'll resume at 1:30.